And welcome back to Edric Company, the podcast where anybody can inspire everybody. I'm Edric, your host, and joining us this week is Mr. Keith Tan, founder and CEO of Crown Digital. Now, this name is probably going to be very familiar to you because you may have come across this thing called Crown Coffee. So he's founded that up, and Crown was founded by Keith in 2015. It started out as a traditional coffee shop, as what you've seen before, but soon they caught the technology bug and they've become a good tech company, solving real-world problems with AI and robotics to deliver the perfect cup of coffee. So it's not just going to be about coffee today, but we're going to look into AI, technology, and not only that, what can we expect in the future as both a business owner and also what AI is going to do for us. So that being said, let's get to the podcast. Hey, hi, Keith.
Hey, hi, Edric. Nice to meet you.
Hey, great. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time off. I mean, you had to make your way all the way back to your office just to do this together for us. Thanks so much.
Most welcome.
All right. So, Keith, when we last spoke, I could really sense your passion, your love for AI. So it's very interesting that the basics of, or at least the basis of where you're coming from, was the love for coffee. And then suddenly you got a love for technology. So maybe you could always tell us a little bit more about from how Crown Coffee became Crown Digital and what the business is all about.
Yeah, so it was 2016 when the company was founded and started our first shop in City Hub in Lavender Street, City Hub 2 actually. And initially it was just a traditional coffee shop, right? Serving great coffee, Italian coffee, and but we were right smack in a state where there are a lot of tech companies around us. Intel's next door, a lot of tech companies around, and they were my customers. And eventually, we opened up a second outlet in DHL's Innovation Center. And that's where I was exposed to a lot of innovation stuff in the Innovation Center. We were serving coffee to, we had a cafe in there. And so I was exposed. That was like 2016. And the world was talking about digital transformation, about how do you embrace technology and go digital. And as we scaled the business, we had 4 at one point, one more in DHL, in SIT and NUS. And then I faced the biggest challenge, which is manpower. And we started hosting a lot of IoT workshops as well. And ideas started to flow. And I thought, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this business. And can I leverage on technology? Can I leverage on data to help me optimize the business? So it was that transition, starting out, because I didn't have that legacy. I mean, 2016 was me starting out in the coffee business, knowing that there's manpower challenge. And I've already used as best as I could to automate as much as possible all the physical, making of coffee with automated systems. But we still needed that human labor, the human capital to run on it on a daily basis. And then that was when I was exposed to the tech and, being immersed with a lot of tech companies around us that kept ringing my head. And then I decided, okay, let's pivot and let's turn the coffee business into a data-centric one with technology.
So what is it about the whole thing? Like, was it like one of those eureka moments where you were sitting inside the coffee shop, you were running the business and, okay, for lack of a better word, you were eavesdropping, right? Or did you actually go up to them and these guys from Intel and whoever, and you started talking about it and actually asking them what was going on? How did that conversation go?
Okay, I'm a very passionate guy when it comes to coffee. So everyone that comes in and everyone knows is Keith with Crown, and I'll be friends with everybody. And when it comes to coffee, you probably see them every day. And if you don't come in for their coffee, I probably know they're either not working today or they're off, right? So it's the same group of people. We build a relationship, and it's really, for me, solving a problem that I face in the business. So they know that it all started with me trying to figure out how to do things better, and piecing things together. So you have the data scientists from Experian, and I thought, okay, first of all, we need to digitize certain aspects of the business. And then, so when I meet them, I say, hey, I plan to do this. What do you think? And Intel, I'm going to use AI into our POS systems. What do you think? And so things just kind of connected. And it took a lot of, I think we are the use case, we are the domain experts in our business. And you have pockets of different solutions out there and partners. They are in their respective area. It's really to kind of like first have the problem statement, how you want to solve it, and just piecing it together. And it's quite a long process. It wasn't like, immediate, like, okay, today I'm going to turn digital and I'm suddenly, transformed. It was a process of all the pain, all the problems that I was building up, right? And I just want to solve them and then just stitching it together. Yeah.
Right. And when you mention all these pain and problems, right now, this is very interesting because you've pivoted almost, right? That from a traditional coffee or traditional retail setting all the way into the bits and bytes. So you're moving from beans into bytes now. Okay. How does one even transit to something like that? What were the key pain points that you just go, shit, I think we can make this so much better and nobody's doing it. I have to do it.
It was a progression. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't an immediate thing. First of all, is to recognize that, hey, you've got to rethink this business model. This, being so reliant on manpower in Singapore is, you've got to solve that problem, right? And then you make a decision like, okay, let's trial some ways to kind of solve that, right? And you need to kind of digitize it. So eventually, a lot of POCs, a lot of ideas flowing, and then validating it with people. And initially, people were like, "Oh, very interesting," but yeah, they spur you on, but eventually you got to just put it together. And it started off with a POC when we got the robot in Ella, and building it in the cafe. I remember back then it was really small, and we didn't have space, so I had a cart. So I drilled 4 holes, fitted a collaborative robot in it, and Intel really helped because they listened to me, and it's they're a big organization. I'm just that coffee supplier, and they brought me into one of their events in the campus, Intel's campus, and I was given that opportunity to share my ideas to a group of people. And that was my first time in there. It was actually one of their IoT, partnership meetings, and they had a lot of ODMs, those original design manufacturers, and ISVs, the independent software vendors. They are the partners who were there. And I was given that chance to pitch it on stage. And during lunch, they came to me and they went like, Keith, you have great ideas, and let's see what we can do to help you. So initially, it started off with an idea, having someone like Intel believing in it, giving me that chance to kind of share that story. And then amongst their partners who has resource, they have all the resources, but maybe they like ideas and working with startups like myself. And then Intel kind of did a matchmaking process, right? Okay, Keith, you need software guys. You need a POS software up and going quickly, right? Instead of reinventing the wheel, why don't you work with these guys? So they kind of like piece it together for me, like, and then I had to work out with them. And the whole idea kind of came together as a proof of concept, POC's proof of concept. And that was done while we were running a cafe. And then the break came when one day, because we are next to Pico Art, a lot of creative agencies, and they were running a lot of exhibition events. And one of the guys came by and said, Keith, you're working on that robot that makes coffee. We saw it in your cafe, and we have a client that wants it, and it's in Marina Bay Sands. Would you like to, support that event? There was just a proof of concept back then. I said, can I charge? They went like, yeah, a client can pay. I'm like, can I charge like $5,000 a day? And yeah, I think they can pay. And as it turned out, it was Alibaba. So we did that event for them in Marina Bay Sands. That kind of kicked off the whole Ella story, really. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Wow. I mean, talk about a stroke of fortune, man. From the Intel guys, then after it became Alibaba as the ones who came in to actually do that with you.
It was the event organizers that were planning for Alibaba's Alibaba Cloud events
Okay.
in Marina Bay Sands. So they get a vendor to organize all their events, and the vendors happen to be my clients, right? And they saw our growth, and they thought that was interesting, serving coffee with robots. And it was a very simple system. We didn't even have the integration done. We were using vision system to see the buttons and press it with the stylus. It was really, really just an early stage POC. And it's really keeping that belief, keep talking about it. And I think a lot of this transpired because people gave us a chance. They took me seriously. It's not just talk. It's I followed up, right? And every time they meet me again, getting the coffee, something has happened, something has progressed, and they saw that happening. And I think keeping it going, builds up that credibility in a sense, and people would remember you because you have that passion, you have that belief. So whenever they talk about something or an opportunity, say, hey, you know what, these guys, I remember these guys, they were working on this, and maybe I could connect you. That's how I think, if you go back down to the basics, how we really created this out of really just ideas. That's how it happens. Yeah.
One thing I love about that is the authenticity. We're talking about that and your ability to continue sharing your vision, sharing your goals, sharing the ideals that you are really looking at creating. And this is how it all comes about. One of the things that I feel that a lot of people in Singapore, right, especially don't do is a lot of personal branding. We're somewhat shy, right, to tell people our goals. One thing is, on one end, it could be insecurity. Like we're thinking that, somebody's going to steal my ideas. On the other hand, it's, I just, I don't really want to talk about myself kind of thing. So do you think that, I mean, just on a personal level, right, do you think that this is also lacking among quite a number of even entrepreneurs who are going out there and trying to get business, but not getting enough?
I think it's important to just, reach out and share your ideas. People who are worried about people copying, it's an idea. There's a lot more from ideation to really bring it together and turn it into a commercially viable solution. So just get it going. Just do it. And I think it's really, being authentic, right? Like you said, being real, right? And people could sense it when you're really working on something, you believe in it. That will, it's natural, right? It comes out of you, and it's consistent. So every time they see you, it's always that story that you're building on, and there's progression because every time you meet them, something has happened, a new milestone has been reached. They remember you because and I think for me, I'm that I can talk to anyone. I literally, the minute you walk in, I'll look at you. I've not met you before. I'm like, is this the first time here? And yeah. Oh, okay. You know what? Oh, you're going to get a great coffee. And they remember because that kind of connection, even that speech, just that chat, having that really grounded, I mean well, right? I just want to serve you well. They will appreciate and they will remember you and they'll come back and they will talk about you. So I think that's something that is me, Keith, the way I have approached everything. It's been like that. Yeah.
Right. And, now that we're on this topic, I think it's really good. When we talk about being a good tech company, a lot of it is coming from where your heart is, right? And how you've actually turned your business into or at least in the area of service, looking at why you want to do this, why you are doing, putting robotics and AI into the coffee and more, right? It's got to come from somewhere. What is it, right, about being a good tech company, and what is it that you're trying to solve at the end of the day, apart from the pains and of running a traditional retail? What is it that you're trying to solve?
I invested into Crown, and I tried the traditional way, running cafes, giving a lot of passion, building it, 4 locations, and it was something that was really tough. Like I said, with manpower, and but besides that, I realized that this traditional way of running cafes, cafes are great if you're an owner operator. If you either you stay as one, you put a lot of passion in it, you run it, and you keep costs low because you are the operator, or you scale up to at least 10, 20, where you have a central kitchen and you have that, you're big enough to find that margin in a very, very tight labor. It's just tough, right? F&B. You either keep small or you go really huge. And if you're stuck in the middle, I just felt that it was really, really difficult. And I very invested in it, and I thought there's got to be a better way. And while the world was looking at, things are changing, everyone's digitizing, and I knew how to make a great coffee. And I thought, hey, let's leverage on that. And it's, initially early days, right, there are a lot of people who are very skeptical. In fact, I'm getting people contacting me now that we have traction and say, hey, Keith, in early days, we were skeptical about this. And we thought it's just, it's just a novelty, getting a robot and make a coffee. It looks great, but it's just not going to fly. But I think it's the marriage of, being very grounded and to use technology in, you need to be very grounded as to, is this just pure novelty, or are you really solving an inherent problem in the industry? And is it something that companies can embrace? Is this for the future? That you have to be very true to yourself. And I think I've been through this many rounds over the last 3 years building the tech, right? Questioning and having that belief. I think that's key, to building tech for good, right? Real tech that is solving real problems, not just, looking good. Yeah.
Right. And in your case, now, Ella, on the other hand, right? In your past interviews, you've also been able to tell us a little bit more about why you've called it Ella. Is probably because of the Rihanna song, right? That was probably the hook kind of got stuck in there. Now, what does Ella bring to the table? Okay, apart from coffee, but what problems does it really solve? When you developed it in the first place, did it match up to your expectations?
I think a lot of that. So Ella, right, initially was obviously to solve the manpower challenge. So it can, it can speed up. It has 4 times the throughput of a human barista. And what we did was essentially, okay, so if you come to a cafe, you think about it, right? The first thing, you go to the cashier, hi, I would like a latte. And you have someone standing there dealing with the POS system. Okay, they key it in and then collect $4 from you. They will prepare the coffee and then they'll hand it over to you. So we have kind of like automated the entire process. So you're ordering through the mobile app, you pay with your phone. So we have integrated with payment systems, gateways, created a wallet. So you can order through your mobile phone. That means allowing you to order ahead of time, right? And Ella, being a robotic arm, articulated 6 axis, is like a human arm. She can be programmed to move things around. She prepares the coffee, and it's the same quality coffee. Okay, so exactly the same process as we do in our cafe, and box it up. So what we've done is to automate the entire cafe, completely end to end, right? Squeeze it into a small box and let it run autonomously. So there's no human intervention. Right. And then it's what that means is if you look at a traditional business, you're paying rent. Rent is a big part of it, 20-30% of your revenue. Right. We've squeezed it down to like 4.5 square meters. So that rental has reduced significantly. We've taken away all labor. That's 20-30%. Right. So in effect, and you're selling at close to your retail price. Right. I mean, we pass on the savings to end users, so it's cheaper. So there's a reason to go back to Ella, and everything is on a mobile app. So it can run 24/7, right? Without supervision, it's autonomous. So that translates to a very good margin on the business. And in order to come to that point, right, it was a lot of work on the tech part. I can go into the details on how we built that, but just economics wise, just the numbers, it makes sense and it's scalable, right? And then and that is a whole new business model, because you are no longer running like a cafe business. You are now creating a new segment of the market where people grab and go. So that fundamentally changes your approach in terms of business development.
Right. I'm sure that some of the questions that you will probably get, right? It's like, oh, what about the baristas now? The art form is lost.
Mm.
And are we
Yes.
really? Yeah. So again, this is again the whole thing about Skynet, right? The machines will come over. Like you said, Ella can be programmed to do anything. Essentially, even if you had bad customers, right? Ella could be programmed to throw the customer out if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point because I initially, people who haven't seen Ella hasn't experienced getting a copy of Ella, and they're trying to piece this together. And okay, you got to go and you're doing that automated stuff. But they always ask me, Keith, coffee, you need to have that human experience. You got to have that. When you go on to a cafe, you talk to the barista like how I used to talk to I'm still talking, right, to all my customers coming in. So my question is, yes, you expect that. But so we are not trying to replicate the cafe, right? But there is this emerging segment where people just want to grab and go. First thing in the morning when you're rushing to work, right? Are you going to have a chat with your barista for half an hour? You're rushing to work. You just want your coffee fast. You want not to queue up. You don't want to queue up. You want it consistent, always great. I just want to grab and go as you have no time to talk to anybody. That's when there's this opportunity there. And how can you then take advantage of that, right? And reduce costs and make it available to everybody. So fundamentally, that cafe model has to be changed. We are addressing a different market segment. And the question comes back to, yeah, I want to give that great experience to my customers, but that's Keith, right? I still rely on that Keith element, right? And I need to replicate that, which I can't. So how? What are you going to do, right? Ella's the answer.
Okay. So we are not getting rid of the baristas. They have a
No,
purpose, that's for
they
sure.
have a
This is
purpose
more
for
of the
sure.
grab and go. This is the grab and go model whereby it's kind of like having all the pop-ups. You had one at Plaza Singapura, right? Recently,
Right.
I happened to see it on YouTube with the LG OLED transparent OLED screens.
That's right. That's LG's TOLED screen. We're the first guys to use it, actually. We got the pre-production pieces from LG, and that built the whole user experience. And we kind of, so yes, we do not have a barista, human baristas, but how do you then do it digitally, right? How do you create a user experience to try to replicate as much or recreate new digital experiences to make it a whole new experience rather than what a cafe. So we are not trying to use technology to replicate exactly what a cafe would give you, but close to that in a different way, different manner. But end result is you get a great cup of coffee conveniently, and then retargeting where you're going to place them. So I believe that in future, right, cafes are where it's really focused on human interaction. You go there for the experience, maybe sit down and have a chat with your friends, and having a nice cup of coffee, and see the skill set of what a human barista would do. But that business, to me, and unless they start charging a lot more, right? But the economics doesn't make sense in Singapore if you have rental and you have labor and you're charging $5, $6 a cup and then spending 3 hours and consuming the retail space. But that is a problem that the retail team, sector would have to address. Eventually, they have to figure out whether it still makes sense to run that business model. But as a company, Crown Coffee, we realized that is not going to be working for us, and we want to pivot into grab and go, consistent great coffee, small setup, put them all around in the transport network, right? For people who appreciate great coffee on the go.
Now let's dive into Ella a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
When you started building Ella from concept to, of course, concept ideation and eventually the execution of it, what were the biggest pain points for you? Because, earlier on off the air, I was telling you that I tried CNC. I've tried some of this mechanical engineering. And although it's a completely different field, but just moving it from, the 3-axis, understanding how the movement is and the programming. And plus now you've got AI, you've got direct. As somebody who's not even from the tech space, you were an asset manager before all of this, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're going into, to me, what is rocket science? So what were the biggest challenges for you?
Well, it's everything came in progressively, right? We were initially I wanted to use a robot to automate it. we didn't have a mobile app then, right? It's just a touchscreen POS system, which I borrowed from somebody else, adapted it to get a proof of concept going. I think, and then, I told you earlier with the Alibaba event in Marina Bay Sands, and then that was when I met up with the Marina Bay Sands team, and we got onboarded as their coffee supplier for their exhibition. So since then, we've done like 40 international events, at least, large events where, because Ella is on a card. For the longest time, we had, a mobile card, right? So whenever they have a big, exhibition event, they'll say, Keith, come in, we have 1,000 cups, right, for the next 2 days. And then we'll roll Ella in and serve coffee. So the initial days, building the tech, right, it was hard because how do I even hire the team? It's the team that's coming together to build the entire ecosystem, right? It was finding the right people, the key people who believe in the story. I think as an early startup, you're a coffee shop and now you're a tech company and you don't even have that whole tech yet. And to sell that story to people who believe in it and willing to join you, that was the first hurdle. I managed to get the first team when I went to Hong Kong. It's through somebody introduced, and it was a guy from IBM, a solutions architect, and he was willing to move to Singapore, and I went there and interviewed the whole group of them, and then brought them in, and they started in 2019 January, brand new team, just with an idea how to automate Ella. I already had an idea how she's going to be autonomous shop on its own, but we had to figure out how to piece that together. And different guys have different skill sets. You have the software engineers, you have the solutions architect, you have the robotics part. I picked it up, right? I didn't hire anyone. I kind of learned. I just love it, built it. But putting it together, and then started hiring, it was hard because I thought, okay, let's hire someone from factory automation, right, to do all the, robotic stuff. And when I started, interviewing them, and my vision of what Ella is going to be using AI, meaning computer vision, Industry 4.0, and the talent pool that we have in Singapore who are very much into factory automation, right? These are the guys who answer your, they'll reply to your job ad, right, for robotics and automation. They are the system integrators or they are the factory automation guys. And they're going to bring in their skill set from the factory, very, very automation, factory focused. Whereas Ella is retail. You're going to put in robots into retail. It's yes, you have automation, but you can't be like a factory going zaza. You got to have that look and feel that will appeal to end users because you're making coffee. You're not making you're not in a wafer fab. You're not in a CNC factory. So when I started interviewing them, I realized, that their skill set in factory is so embedded into that factory automation. They're gonna turn Ella, if they were to build it, into a factory.
Right, it's going to be this massive tank, right, with an articulated arm. So how are you going to wheel that around?
So I then I realized, no, that's not possible. And when I told them, okay, I threw a few questions to them. I said, okay, so if there's a spill, right? If for some reason Ella spilled coffee, right? How are you going to detect that? Because it's unmanned, no one's going to be there. How are you going to know? They said, well, we're going to put sensors all over. Sensors all over. That means a lot of hardware, a lot of sensors, a lot of wiring, and that doesn't make sense. Can you use vision? Vision. I said, yeah, we can use vision. We are used to using vision systems to do checks on our in the factory. But that kind of vision system is used for checking quality control on all the electronic components, right? It's different from what we want to use. I said, can we use a webcam and then just run an AI workload and recognize a spill, maybe put it through machine learning and just learn what the spill looks like. They say, oh, that's Industry 4.0. Our factory is trying to get there. So they are trying to they want to get into Industry 4.0, but they're not there yet. And so then I realized, what we're trying to achieve with Ella is the frontier. We're trying to achieve something that people are building for the first time. There isn't anything out there that is like that because we're building something from scratch, right? New. Then I realized that, I cannot get that because they're going to bring their legacy in, and we're going to get stuck in that vicious cycle trying to. So eventually, we never got ourselves a robotic engineer. We did it ourselves. Our software guys learn all the codes and kind of like we kind of figure out ourselves. That was the most challenging in the early days. Getting that direction and being very focused on how the technology will eventually be, and how we built that base code. It was from scratch, right? We decided, okay, we're going to do it on C#, all right, and we're going to figure out how we're going to connect everything together as IoT, and just get on with it. So that was the initial days, and it was very painful because you don't know what you don't know, right? And initial days was like, it was hell. We were at times when the minister was coming, trying to get a coffee, right? And it was right there when things failed. I was like, I wish I disappeared. I wish I wasn't there.
You just wish like a spider came and just ate you or something.
I
Right?
wish
It's
I
terrible.
just disappeared there and then, right? Like, I had all these scares. It was, oh my gosh, it was. But that gave us that real world testing running out in Marina Bay Sands, and we kind of figure out along the way. It was really painful, but eventually we learned, and that was like, to me, the baptism of fire. We went through everything, right? And that gave us the experience of what to avoid and what works. Yeah.
Right. Also about testing, and there's nothing that beats Murphy's Law.
Yeah. I mean,
right, nothing will defeat
testing,
it.
And you got to be on the ground, right? Really, and we were very lucky with Marina Bay Sands because we did like over 100,000 copies. We learned everything. It's not just the robots moving around. It's the syncing, the database, it's everything, the latency, because you're running live. And the coffee has got to taste good, End of the day, you have all that fanciful robots and AI. Your coffee has to taste good, and we managed to do that well because that's Crown Coffee, right? Our experience as an operator. So we ensured the coffee tastes great, and the operations, the daily operations, topping on the milk, ensuring that all these are done. That was, I think, is a combination of that operational experience we have as a cafe, and then really knowing the problem statement and understanding the operational aspects of things, translating it into technology that is wrapped around it, right, to solve it. And then having that opportunity to test it in real world, getting paid at the same time, and then feedback. We are super, super agile, right? I'm that crazy guy, immediately I send something, goes in the group chat, and then we solve it. So it's crazy, a lot of that.
You earlier on you mentioned that you brought this entire team from Hong Kong, right, to come down to Singapore and start working. Now, Jack Ma, when he started out Alibaba, I think you've seen this. He has this initial pitch, right? For those who don't know, go onto YouTube and Google it, or sorry, go onto YouTube, just search Jack Ma. I think it was the listing pitch or something like that. Now, what was the pitch that you gave to that team to go, I'm in, I want to be part of this, and you don't have to pay me that much. I'll still do it because it's an amazing thing. What was it that you said to them?
Okay, I mean, the vision, right? I shared with them how big this could be, and they believed in it. But the other part about not paying enough, that part, I paid well. I mean, have to be realistic here. You're in Singapore, you have bills to pay, you need to eat, you need to survive, and we pay very good rates. Because initially I thought I don't want any of my staff to worry about, being underpaid. So we pay well. I mean, definitely market rates or better. I want to get that out of the way so they can then focus on that. And this is the part about Singapore, right? If you are, it's hard because you have to pay. You have bills to pay. You have houses. You have HDB, right? You have a certain age. You're married. You gotta own a house. It's different from like in the US where you could just rent a place, and figure out and work on your startup. Over here, you have your responsibilities, and these are. So I met a lot of people. They were like, Keith, you're so daring. It's amazing how you took that risk because I can't. I wish I could. I could join you, but I have my kids. I have their tuition. I have the house to pay, the car to pay, and I can't take that risk. I have to just stay on with the job that I don't enjoy. So it's really, really difficult in Singapore. That's why it's the way things are. It's hard to have entrepreneurs who are willing to risk it all. And I'm thanks to my partner, you know, it's not a good experience for her to have that, entrepreneurial husband who's risking everything, right? And she needs to believe in that as well and support me. So it's not easy on that.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
completely agree.
but I think back to that, it's really showing what could be possible and selling the story. I have to sell. I'm like a salesman, right? I have to sell it to future partners, investors, sell it internally to my staff to get them to believe in it. I'm selling the idea, right, all the time. But the good thing is we have progress, right? Every time we improve and we hit a new milestone, and everyone's just they believe in it because they see it happening, and then I think that keeps us going.
Right. I love this part about how you're running your company, because to me, corporate culture, it's something that really begins from the ground up. It's not something that is templated as what other people believe. Oh, we want to work exactly the way Google does. We want to work the way exactly Apple does. But more importantly, right, how would you define a Crown Digital's company culture as what you and probably the others have developed it along the way?
That's something that I have learned a lot, in this last couple of years. And as you get busy, there's so much to deal with, right? And the culture, when we first started, it was very um, I'm that I'm that crazy guy with ideas, and I hire people. I don't check on them. I trust them, and they have the autonomy to do their things. And we kind of work in a very unstructured manner. Just I didn't have no, the company wasn't structured in any way. It was just a group of guys coming together, getting the job done. What has to be done, do it. And then as we grew, and then I start not having, visibility on certain things because the company has grown bigger. Then I realized that, the culture part is so important to continue to keep that narrative going. And sometimes you get carried away because there's so many things, now we have Japan business to deal with, UAE, I have to deal with a lot more. And employees might see me less, and are they still aligned? These are things that we have to learn, and that's where we need to quickly get the HR, which I did already, team in to manage that as the company grows bigger and bigger. So we have challenges, and we are always on a learning curve. And I think end of the day, it's just got to be very, very honest with each other. And and for me, I don't have airs, right? I'll just talk to them as it is. I eat downstairs. I do everything with the team, right? I'm not like that CEO. I'm being honest. I'm vulnerable. I need them. We all are part of this, of the company, and we need to leverage on each other's, and we rely on each other and to win. So I always say, like, we have a lot of battles out there. Let's not have any battles in house, okay? Let's focus on the real battle that's out there, and
Right,
and
right.
be aligned. Yeah.
Great, great. And do you have these rumble sessions from time to time?
Yeah, we have to, right? Recently, and to keep that, recently we did a breakfast with Keith, and everyone coming together. Especially it's hard now with COVID last year, people working from home and all. And when you start working from home, you don't get together that much, and before you know it, right, things might go wrong, right? So it's important to keep everyone close together. And yeah, this part of my entrepreneurial journey, right? It's not about just great ideas; it's about people management, and hiring people, the right people. Skill sets is one thing, right? The value system and their the value system in them is very important. It's critical. Skill set is one thing, but you need to work well with the rest of the team. And sometimes as a company grows bigger, you see friction happening amongst others, but we try to have, so in the end, eventually, hiring is really about not just skill sets. Skill sets, yes, you need to have them, but you can develop them on the way. But then also down to your bandwidth, right? You need someone to come in and solve your problem right away, or are you gonna cultivate then if you have someone that's very brilliant, but it could be a jerk, then it doesn't work because it crashes with that. So this is something that is, to me, the biggest challenge, not just on the technology front, but people. Yeah. So moving forward, as we grow bigger, we're going to focus a lot on people, the culture, hiring,
Yeah, fantastic. I think with that mindset, right, the company is going to be awesome. As you continue to grow, it will continue to be an awesome place to be in. One of the biggest things I know that I've come across in many, many, many organizations, right, it's that the hiring culture has become one of that, like what you've mentioned. It's very skill set specific or skills heavy, and they're not looking so much into the person anymore and the potential of that person. What does that person bring to the table apart from just that one specific skill? Okay, fine. If you're a doctor, I mean, look, if it's an episode of House, it's okay. If the doctor comes off as a jerk, but he's brilliant, okay, you'll keep him, right? No matter what. But in our day and age, there are certain skills, or there are certain positions that require both these hard skills, technical skills, and soft skills that even a lot of generalists out there, right, would definitely be very suitable. The only challenge is because of picking up that technical skill first to be able to get past that door. So, on your end, right, what have been the biggest issues, right, when, or at least as a hirer or an employer, what is it that you ask, your number one question that you ask that tells you most likely yay or nay? What's that sensing that you can get?
From people, right? Okay, so we tried all, I've been through a lot of hiring, and you let go of some people. I always have this, I give people that benefit of doubt. I always seeing the best out of people, because you got to give them a chance, right? And many a times, you don't know how the working relationship would be until you start working with them. And because it's also part of learning how to sense and kind of like understand over time what exactly you will look for in the person. The heart is very important, because I think as a startup, it's going to be rocky. It's not going to be a bed of roses. There will be times when you have to work, just get on with it. That's a problem you need to solve, and you're the person to solve it. And you just got to do it, right? No matter how hard it is. And when it's hard like this, it boils down to the value system, right? What are you doing this for? Are you here to make a difference, or are you here to get a job and get paid? Nothing wrong to just, my job here is to just deliver and then get paid, and then that's all I want. But I think, for a startup, you need more than that, right? You need more than that. So when all that great, beautiful stuff is just strip it aside, and it's just now, okay, you know what? It's hard, right? What is it that keeps you going? Is your heart that's true to the company, and you got to love the company. You got to love what you're doing, and absolutely love to be part of the team. And then have a good heart. That's fundamental. And many a times and it's difficult because in Singapore, sometimes it's you need to balance that with work life, family, and all. It's hard, It's not like in another country where they are, a bit more, we are. It is the society. It's hard, but it is what it is. I have to deal with it. I have to keep them happy, right? And always focus that we have challenges, but we need your understanding. And so what we do now is we will throw a case scenario, right? This is a problem we need to solve. And can you, if you're willing, come in for a few days, learn about things, and let's pretend that we're working together. Let's work together. Let's see how this pans out. And for those who are really serious, they would say, okay, I'll find some time and I will study and I'll come up with my recommendations and I'll work with you. And as you start working with them, you spar and then you throw questions and then you see how they react. I think that's the best way. That's how we're doing it now for key hires. Yeah. Just
Very
kind of
interesting.
trial it, just run it. Yeah.
Right,
We
right,
get
right.
an NDA sign and then share some information and then we go. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. It's kind of like just a temp internship, if you want to do, really to test the waters, and it works both ways, right? For you to see it, whether or not there's a fit in the team, and the other one is to know whether or not they would really fit into the company or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
trial, just run it. I mean, we're still learning. I have a new HR who is very experienced, and I told him, I I need your help, to build the culture. My culture is like, as such. I want the company to be like this, and please help me out. See my blind spots. Areas that I missed out. Right, look out for me. So I I approach it this way, and whenever I hire somebody, I say, hey, I'm not great, right? I'm good at this, but I need this to click, and can you do this for me? Can you help me? And this is what I want, and you'll be given that opportunity to run it your way, but keep this, and hopefully all comes together. So it's a learning. We're still learning. Yeah.
Right. Basically, then you can then develop your key pillars of your value system and what you want to get out of it and all that, right?
Yeah.
And now, one of the things that being in tech as well is that the challenge here is that AI is definitely going to change a lot of job scopes, a lot of landscapes. Now, you as an employer, all right, or as a business owner, what do you foresee that business owners are going to have to do to not just deal with the AI in terms of technology changes, but upskilling their people? What do you think looking forward, right, business owners need to get ready for?
Once you go digital, there's no turning back. It's so much better, but it takes a big leap of faith to digitize everything. So one of the big things for me, right, was Crown Digital. So we have Crown Coffee as the ongoing cafe business. We didn't try to kind of like digitize it through Crown Coffee. It was Crown Digital. It's a new company, whole new team. So I didn't have to kind of try to change things. I hired a new team and started off as as Crown Digital. So I think that's a big challenge for most organizations. They try to, and there's a lot of government grants out there that help them. But sometimes when it comes to legacy, the old ways of doing things, it's very, very difficult to transform, and it comes with a lot of pain. Sometimes, business owners have to rethink their business and say, hey, I want to do it, and and doing it this way might not yield that immediate results. It's a long drawn game, and are you willing to go through that? It's very painful, and sometimes you have to kind of like decide once and for all. Okay, this is going to be really difficult. Why don't we just start on a clean sheet of paper, rethink the business, and then completely transform it and change the business? That's a big pivot, right?
Massive.
It's massive, yeah, and they have to at some point decide that, and it has to come from the very top. And we transform, that is if you leave it to your, I've seen so much happen, right, in other larger corporates, very, very hard, too much legacy, and they leave it to the managers to do it. You're gonna spend a lot of money, a lot of time doing it, and you might not get the result that you want. It has to come from very top, and decisions have to be made, and taking risks, taking risks. You want to do this, it's going to cost a lot of money. You don't know if it works. Taking risk. You got to have the appetite for that. I think eventually companies will come to a point where it's either they don't do it or they do it wholesale, because that half is just not going to, it's going to get you the results you want. It's eventually, those who don't survive will not survive, and those who pivot and they and then they'll yeah. As I don't think at this stage there are companies are getting disrupted, the industry that they're getting disrupted, but they'll still survive. They get on, But I guess it's the new retail, or the new, like, retail now. They're facing all the challenges, right? With the lockdowns coming in, and the real estate. Everyone's moving online now. Eventually, it'll reach a point where it's no longer feasible to run those traditional way of businesses anymore, and they will give up. And then the new guys that come in will probably say, hey, we're not going to go back that way. We're going to start off this way, the new way. And you see that that's when things will really change. Yeah.
Is that really why? Yeah, it definitely does. Is that why you're probably also seeing that the traditional department stores are starting to close down? They're losing traction. Big names, old names are all going down. Let's put it this way. Back in the 80s, Yao Han was there, right? But eventually it just left. All our Japanese department stores, less Takashimaya, right, is going... Well, I'm not saying that they're going bust, but their results are not so good. Do you really think it's got something to do with the technology now? Or is it because of their sourcing? Or is it the old ways? And because customers are evolving with technology faster than the retailers. Do you think that's the case?
I think it's the customers. Their lifestyle has changed. Going out on a Sunday, Saturday with friends for shopping might no longer be the thing to do anymore, and with technology, it makes so much sense to just order that thing that you already know what you want, right? Online, and then get it delivered to your home. So these are becoming commonplace now, and it's a shift in consumer behavior. That is two things, right? Technology is evolving, right? And then consumer behavior, people are more on the move now, and they look for convenience. They are busy people, and things that they used to do as an event on the weekend is no longer an event, right? So that's where I think retail in some countries, are still thriving, because in those countries, the consumer behavior is still very much, alive. They want to go out. It's still cool to, hang out with friends, and go shopping, but maybe in Europe, right, where it's still nice to go into a shop where they value that human touch, and then, and they're supporting. But I think in Singapore, where we are so savvy, right? It's just so it makes sense to just buy online, and that's where the retailers are facing that challenge now. But it's just shifting consumer behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, I have
think
to agree with you.
retailers have to really, really, adapt to that. We have adapted with Ella. She's yeah. So and we're scaling. So yeah. So I think eventually a lot of other players, they're still hanging on. They're doing their best to hang on, but they'll hopefully things will. Hopefully they'll adapt, and then I'm sure they are, and yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there regarding the adaptation that is required, right? But somehow or rather, in this day and age, let's just say, for example, really the lockdown is done. Don't you think that there will be more people who would going back to the stores, going back to the mall? Sometimes I really don't want to wait 3-4 days for something to come through. I would really like to go to the store and get it.
Yeah. So there will be, but you can't deny that out of that group of consumers who are like you, who will go down, right, to buy on the spot, there's a big chunk of them that will have already bought it online, and that whatever that's left is just not enough to keep the retailers going. So that's a fundamental behavioral change, right? And
yeah, it's true.
And it's just not sustainable.
Right.
So
rentals, manpower, again, these are the major things, right?
When you look at retail, you need that that revenue, right? You need that critical mass. And if you start losing that, it might not make sense anymore, you know? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's like a taxi driver. You need to do a certain number of trips per day because you have a fixed cost, right? You have your rental, you have the diesel to pay. And if you have that cut in travelers, it just doesn't make sense anymore. So, yeah. Retailers have to rethink the business models. Yeah.
Right. And with that, that's pretty much the reality of things. And, I mean, we've spent quite a lot of time on this, and I really appreciate, you spending so much time with us on this show. And pardon me, my goodness. And, thank you so much again, Keith, for spending almost an hour with us, and sharing your ideas, your insights. And I think more importantly is for everybody to get to know you better. I think that's what the podcast is all about, that you've shown so much about who you are, who Keith is. And it's not that Keith is Crown Coffee. It's not that Keith is Crown Digital, but Keith is part of this whole giant, beautiful culture that we're trying to create over at Crown. Right? So with that, we've got one last segment that we always do on every show with every guest, and that is known as the EPIC Questionnaire. Basically, it is a rapid fire 10-question list. All right. So with that, Keith, are you ready for the EPIC Questionnaire?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. All right. Question number 1. One word that you love the most.
Ella?
One word that you dislike the most.
Cannot.
If you could have a conversation with one person, fictional, non-fictional, dead or alive, who would that be?
Elon Musk.
Everybody loves Elon Musk. Okay. Anyway, what do you say to yourself in the morning? What do you say to yourself in the mirror every morning?
I don't, you caught me out there. Is my hair all right?
Okay, interesting. Name one superpower that you'd like to have.
To really, really understand things in life. Everything.
Favorite dish to eat?
Wagyu. Wagyu beef.
Nice. Favorite travel spot or the next travel spot you like to visit when borders open up?
Turkey. I'd love to go Turkey. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Something in the arts that you've always wanted to do, but you've yet to do so.
In the arts? Well, I've always wanted to perform, right? I love my rock and roll music and to be out on stage and playing my electric guitar. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. Which one do you own, by the way?
Gibson.
A Gibson. What?
Yeah, secondary.
Nice.
We had that, yeah. So, but haven't been playing, and that's something I want to do. I don't want to be rock and roller.
I completely understand. My S series, my Ibanez S series is my store. It's been there for a long time already. Let's see. What does retirement look like to you?
Retirement is working all the way and doing things that you love, spending time with your loved ones, and enjoying the twilight years. Having to see kids growing up to be great people. I think that's retirement for me.
And lastly, how do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy?
Legacy is Crown. That we despite all the odds, we created a technology that would change how F&B is going to be reimagined. And I think, and Ella have been everywhere as part of everyone's lives. Every note of their lives. That's the legacy. Yeah.
All right. And that is the EPIC Questionnaire with Keith Tan. It sounds like, Ella and his partner is going to have to, fight for attention from time to time. You've only got 24 hours in the day, and it seems that that's the case. All right. So that was the EPIC Questionnaire with Keith Tan. No, thanks so much for joining us. And with that, all right, that's another week. That's another episode here on Edric Poonin Company, the EPIC Podcast. And we are out. Peace.